might find a different Ravi there. But yes, got to be cool. My product is cool, so I got to be cool as well. I stay that way, and that helps me work, because under pressure, if you tend to succumb and show your vigor in terms of anger or anguish, I don't think that's going to be benefiting anybody, neither just me from a health point of view. So I try to stay calm under the pressure and try to find a solution out of it. And perseverance is something that keeps driving me inch by inch, even if I'm like really, really vexed up with things, but still keep pushing myself every day.
Well, that's amazing. Well, that's great, sir. So, for anybody to inculcate these qualities, there should be some sort of childhood experiences or the way that you were brought up that matters. So, do you have anything that, that interested you as a child that made you, be over here, like the place where you are?
See, it's very important. Sometimes we fail to understand the family brought up that we actually come up across. As a kid, I've always been on a dining table where my father and my mom used to talk business all the time. आज इतना बड़ा problem हो गया, आज उतना नुकसान हो गया, आज इतना profit हो गया, and stuff like that. So we have been raised in a family where we always speak business throughout the day, and after business comes a question कि बेटा आज दिन कैसा था? That is a secondary question for my father. He had been very focused and persevering in terms of his ambitions, but that does not need to stop anybody from dreaming about being an entrepreneur. I'm not saying that only because you come from a family business you can be a good entrepreneur. Please, I'm not even advocating that statement here. I am just talking about the way I grew up. My parents were pretty into business family, and many a times I keep saying this in college fest and speeches where I am being called upon, that sometimes we tend to ignore the fact that family businesses, whether your dad or your mom is sitting in a kirana store, whether she is a cloth merchant, whether she's got a beauty salon or whatever, if she's been running it for 10s and 20s of years, she has got the fundamental right of running a business in profitability. And we tend to ignore that fact. We see things ki ye to bahut chota sa business hai, ye to koi bhi kar lega. Nahin, that's not the fact. The fact is that running family business is one of the most toughest things. And I think I respect now my father to what he was doing for last 3 decades. As a kid, probably I never realized that. So as a kid, I've always been brought up in this family, and I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, to be honest. Even today, I don't see myself going and working for someone. I might earn less today, make less money, but I'm at least proud of whatever I'm doing for myself. That's the way I'm.
Yeah. Yep. So, well, that's a really great answer from sir. So, you spoke about family businesses and, what you've learned from that. So can you tell us any 1 or 2 experiences that you went through while you were building your family businesses that actually helped you grow Skippy? So any 1, 2 powerful experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll be very honest, I've been very bullish about saying that I've got family business values with me. Sometimes people think this to be a little downtrodden kind of a statement. But honestly, I'll tell you what, in today's era, the family business values are the most important thing that probably is not even taught in business schools. My fundamentals that my father taught me are still helping me run the show. First thing was credit nahi dene ka. My father was very clear about it. Business kam karo, lekin credit mat do, kyunki udhari jaise hi dete ho, you'll have to keep chasing the people around for even $500. And that was my principle from day one. I will grow slow. I will not even grow probably if required, but I'm not going to be chasing people for my own money. So I kept focusing on creating a policy around my business, which made me more sustainable. Today, we are 100% advance payment business. I mean, it sounds it sounds probably least important, but it is very important for you to work on your numbers, your capital, operating cash flows very much. So that is one value my father said. Second, my dad has always kept goodwill in more important than profitability. My dad says that the goodwill that you are creating in the market by being a genuine entrepreneur, by being a genuine businessman, will take you miles further even if you're not doing good. But if you screw up your goodwill in the market, then nothing is going to be actually helping you out. When times go bad, your goodwill actually will help you get funds from people, maybe investment from people, or even any kind of a credit line or any kind of a, opportunity from people. But goodwill was very important for him, and more importantly, it was always he always focused on one thing, that unit economics has to be very profitable. You know, whether you guys are talking about getting into a service industry, creating an IT platform, a tech platform, or you're getting into a product, or an F&B entrepreneur like myself, the unit economics is very important. At what cost am I acquiring a customer? Am I making profit out of it or not? At what cost am I giving this service? Am I making profitability at every cost or not? That is absolutely very important. People today tend to forget the basic principle of business, which is making profit. We are just talking about giving service, giving a solution for a problem that we think it is important. But everything to be sustainable, like how we talk about recycling a plastic today, making planet Earth very sustainable, business needs sustainability, and that can come only from profitability. So that is the unit economics that my father focused. Based on these three principles, I think I started off my business. And by God's grace, we are doing decently enough today.
Decently enough is a very small word over here. But then, yes, sir. So, so I'm asking very bluntly, so were there any mistakes that you've did in the past that, from which you had massive learnings and that you applied in Skippy right now?
Yeah, I think, see, firstly, to the audience, I am going to be very raw and blunt in whatever I say. I do not like to sugarcoat anything, because as a young student in a college, I believe that you should be guided in the right path. I don't want to glamorize everything and put you on a path and only later you realize ki yaar kya kar diya maine. So yes, coming to your question, absolutely, there were a lot of mistakes that I've done in the past. First of all, when I was in my father's business, we were into manufacturing of biscuits and exports of a lot of F&B products, right? One of the mistakes that I always did was I assumed that I was growing the business. I did not give the credit to my father, because say my father was doing X crores of business or X number of business. I made it to X square or X to the power of 3 or 4. But I always felt that it was me who was doing the entire thing. But I forgot the fact that the fundamental base of the business has been laid by my father. I was only growing on top of it. Like it's like laying down the foundation of an apartment and then adding 2 more extra floors on top of it. That 2 extra floors started to hit my head. I thought that I was doing amazing work there. But for every successful entrepreneur to grow, the fundamental base of a business is very, very important. Whether you're joining your dad's, your mother's business, your family business, or whether you're starting something of your own, the fundamental is very, very important. And apart from that, this thing what happened, I'll go a little in detail, is, based on that proud thought that I am building the business, I started something of my own, and unfortunately I crashed onto it. I literally burned a lot of money, made huge losses, and that is when I realized that it was not me who was building my business, but rather my father's business was getting built, and I was just contributing to it. So I've learned a lot of mistakes. One of the most important business ideas that I've learned is, do not scale up too fast. If you try and scale up too fast, the chances of you shaking across your path and crashing down is much more going to be higher. Probably look for a small growth, slow growth, but a strong growth. That is very important.
That's great.
I think he needs an extra mic now, or probably. Thanks.
Seconds to on, so just completely off it, put it in the middle.
So, well, that is something that we all have to learn, to never scale as fast as possible, slow down, and also take your time. So now, sir, let's talk about Skippy. So how did the idea of Skippy come into your head? How did you plan on commoditizing a market, a multi-million-dollar market in the West, and how did you come up with the idea, and how did you do that?
Firstly, correction, it's a multi-billion-dollar market out there, not a million. So see, how many of you guys want to be an entrepreneur going forward? You have got some ideas that you're already thinking through, right? Awesome. So see, the good trait of an entrepreneur is that you will always keep looking for ideas. You will walk across the street and you will be like, hey, why don't I create this kind of an app? Why don't I create this kind of a tech product and stuff like that, right? Similar thing with me. I was living in Australia. I wanted to come back for personal reasons back to India. And like I said, I never enjoyed working for somebody else. Though I was working for somebody else in Australia, that's a different story. I wanted to come back and I was thinking of good ideas, you know. I actually came across a lot of other ideas which were very profitable, very money-making kind of an idea. But a kick dorkaled naku. I didn't get that kick. And I wanted to have that kick. Excitement undali. Emana cheste, we have to be very, very excited about what we do. And I was sitting there like, you know, thinking about ideas, and I'm sitting here in my living room. My sister, who had come down to live with us in Australia with her kids for summer, she started to pack some local ice popsicles in a suitcase. And I'm like, Didi, why are you even packing this? I'm sure you've got a lot of brands in India. And then she turns around and said, not even a single brand, Ravi, that I can trust for my kids. And as an entrepreneur, that is the opportunity which whispers in your ears. Sometimes the opportunity is sitting right next to you guys, but you guys are getting blinded. You want to have something better and better and bigger. In my case, that simple statement of my sister turned the entire story for me, and I started to think, it's such a simple product, it's such a wantable product, why is not somebody making it in a country like India? And I started to do my research, only to realize that a country like Australia, which is not so hot as India, UK, which is colder than India, summer in UK is about, I think, 18-22 degrees, something like that. And then you've got Canada, US, which are having $1 billion ice popsicle industry, and a country with 1.4 billion people in India, hottest and humid, nobody wanted to do it. So somehow people ignored that idea, or it never occurred to them. And as an entrepreneur, this was the kick I wanted. This was the excitement I wanted. I jumped straight into it. And eventually Skippy was born. We started with a lot of ideas through what flavors we should get into, what are the pain points, what are the solutions that I can offer. And that is how step by step the conceptualization of Skippy happened in Australia itself. We moved back to India, and then that's how Skippy started.
Well, that's amazing. So I have a bit of a lengthy question, so I'm using my paper to read it out. How was the learning experience while building Skippy? From working in an Australian company to learning about FSS, AI regulations, and understanding the business of packaged foods, what kind of research did you do? And how did it feel to relive the student days of, you know, studying a huge market and then coming up with research and everything?
The most important point I'd like to say here is, I know a lot of people say it is good to be jack of all, but unfortunately for an entrepreneur, it is a king of one industry that matters the most. You cannot be a great chemist and then look at doing an MBA, then look at doing chartered accountancy, and then trying to figure out what in the hell do you want to do in your life. It doesn't work that way. Because if you have got into a segment which you love, of course, if you don't love a segment, please shift on to something that you love. But if you've got into something which you love, you need to give your 5, 10, 20 years of life in the same industry, in the same format. That is where you will get appreciated in the market. Imagine if I had 5 years of experience doing chartered accountancy with numbers, 5 years of experience where I was working for a construction company, and then 5 years of work of some other advocate or something. People would have thought me to be crazy. But the consistency, what we did was, I have got 17, 18 years of experience in the F&B space itself. Anuja, my co-founder, and my wife, she has got another 14 years of experience in the F&B space itself. So we have built our complete understanding and expertise in a particular industry. Today, if somebody comes and tells me, Ravi, can you build a fintech startup? I will tell you I'll be the biggest disaster in that, because that's not my expertise. I love the F&B space. I built myself on the F&B space, and that is why I could understand how to develop this category. So coming to your question, yes, this is how I think I realized that what are the standards of FSSI, or what are the basic standards, what are the pain points in the industry that I need to answer. So just to give a little depth understanding, when I was sitting in Australia, even before coming back to India, I knew that, first of all, India, if I start selling Skippy in a frozen format, I will never succeed. Because logistics in a cold storage is very expensive in India, very, very complex. So that was my first pain point that I had written down on a paper. Second, I have said very clearly that, okay, in case if somebody is biting on the ice pops, it should not be as hard as an ice cube, because then it will start hurting your teeth and the entire experience of enjoying Skippy will fade away. So that was my second point, that when consumers buy the ice pops and they bite on it, it should be soft and crunchy. Then the third point, I was observing that India had evolved into a consumer state which believes in natural, organic, healthy supplements and stuff like that. So that was our third pain point that we had written down, that it should not be anything synthetic or artificial which people are hesitant to consume. So that is what we met down. And then we talked about branding, because people love packaging and branding these days. So that is the fourth point. So this is how your 15 years of experience and expertise in particular domain will help you. If you are a tech geek and if you believe that you are great at technology, stick to it if you love it. And you will realize that in the next 10 to 15 years, your value in the market will go exponentially high. You will see that if you're getting into an entrepreneurship, you will be able to find solutions like this because you know what the problems are in the first place. So that's how I focus on being. In a personal life, I want to play all the sports, right? I'm not good in any sport. I'm good in average in all the sports. But when it comes to professional life, I wanted to stick to just one domain all the time.
What Sir said is very profound. And also this is what, Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, and Mr. Naval Ravikant also says. You have to play long-term games so that, you can adapt and be better at what they do. So I have one more question that I wanted to ask you, sir. So can you tell us about any key business decisions that you have taken while building Skippy? Also, can you tell us how did you come up with those decisions? Did you use any mental models, or did you have anything in your head while you were going through the decision?
As a startup, one thing we all will always have common, we will never have funds. Let's agree to that, right? Father nunchi, mother nunchi oppu teeskoni, we have started something, and we'll always have that pain in our heart that we have to return back those funds. So funds has always been a problem there. But in terms of what I have learned, is that what your question is, right?
Exactly.
I think the first and the fundamental important thing, guys, whoever is starting off, please understand one thing. Do not start a startup with the hope of getting an investment. This is very, very, very important. Guys, please come out of the myth that investment is right standing outside the door for you. You will go there and you will get it. You will not get it. 97% of the people who get into startups will never get funded. That is the statistics I'm talking about, okay? If you look at India, there are tens and thousands of startups coming every year. Today, Startup India, the website has got 87,000 startups registered. Let's understand that not 87,000 of them are getting funded. So first of all, the myth that investment is right next to you is a myth. Do not start a business because you are assuming investments will come to you. It will not. I have been to a lot of colleges where students believe that I've got an idea, I'll work on it and investment to mil jayega. Nahi milega, boss. It is one in hundreds of people who will get investment. Second important thing is whatever business you are getting into, like I said, think from a family business point of view. Get your fundamental process and procedures right. Think about profitability on day one, not after day 100. Because profitability is only what is going to make you sustainable for a longer time. Look at all these big brands. I don't want to name them today over here on this platform. But the guys who were hero back then now are struggling to survive. You would have heard tens and hundreds of startups who have already closed doors because they were not even profitable. They couldn't sustain their own growth. एक चीज I want to say this in Hindi, investor का पैसा business बढ़ाने के लिए चाहिए, business चलाने के लिए नहीं. You understand the difference? Business बढ़ाने, for a growth you need an investment which is understandable. But business चलाने के लिए यार आज मुझे salaries देना है, आज मुझे rent देना है, आज मुझे वो देना है, उसके लिए investment कभी raise नहीं करते. So guys, this is very two important learnings. I would say today, in today's scenario, they call it as a funding winter. We all have heard this term, right? Today, only those businesses are getting funded which are profitable. Investors are running towards them कि यार आप profitable हो, I want to invest in you. And these profitable businesses have the nice, time today to decide which investors they should pick money from. So if you guys are profitable, if you are making 1 lakh rupees profit, 5 lakh rupees profits, doesn't matter. But profitability will give you a long run. In that run, if you believe that now it is a time for you to scale pan-India, pan-global level, that is the time you should reach out to an investor, and every investor will be interested in funding you because they know the fact that irrespective whether I give him funds or not, this bugger is going to make his business $1 million business. That's very important.
That's an excellent answer, sir. So looking ahead, where do you see Skippy going 5 years or 10 years down the lane? This is a very interview kind of question. Where do you see yourself in 10 years down the lane? But then, yeah, 5 years or 10 years down the lane.
Look, I think the way we have positioned ourselves, first of all, guys, how many of you have seen Shark Tank India, or how many of you have seen us on that? Good, right? I had made a very clear statement even on television that we are not a health brand. I'm not going to be selling a popsicle to you and say, have this popsicle and you will grow 2-inch taller, or you will not have diabetes, or you will not have this and that, right? I have positioned myself very clearly that we are a fun brand. People want fun in life today. After COVID, hundreds of F&B brands started all talking about health, and unfortunately 95% of them are so horrible to taste that after a bite I cannot have the second bite. Do you guys agree with me or not? Yeah? So we positioned ourselves very clearly that we are a fun brand, and we've started to add to the fun story by adding more and more products. And we are an offline brand, which makes us more sustainable. Today, all the D2C, online only, yo-yo kind of a brands are struggling because they are not profitable. D2C, it's very difficult to be profitable. We are offline brand, and the way we have grown today, so pre-Shark Tank, we were a team of 14 people. Today, we are close to about 280 to 300 people across India. We were in about 700-800 or 1,000 plus stores pre-Shark Tank. We are in 22,000 stores today. We are doing more than 7,000-8,000 pin codes through Zepto and Swiggy as well. So I think the structure is perfectly aligned. If you ask me what in the next 5 to 10 years, I cannot say what is happening in the next 10 years, but at least in the next 3 to 5 years, I think we will be a 1,000 crore plus brand in terms of our revenues, which is very much possible because our fundamentals are right, our team is aligned, everybody understands that the space that where we are playing is a very, very unique category that we are trying to develop. And 20 rupees कौन खर्च नहीं करता यार आज today if somebody wants to have an ice popsicle, he will not think कि 20 रुपए के लिए मैं लोन लूँ या क्या करूँ. He'll bring out 20 rupees and have it instantly. So I know that the entire India, 1.4 billion people are my customers today. Uttar Pradesh, if I take Uttar Pradesh, 22 crore population, 2-3 European countries समा जाएंगे उसमें, right? So I am very confident. 4 to 5 years that is the number we are aiming at, probably 1,000 crore.
Whoa.
Thank you.
So thank you for bringing up Shark Tank, sir, because that was my next question. So scoring investments from all the 5 sharks, it's obviously an incredible feat. So could you share your initial expectations from Shark Tank, and what do you think convinced all the 5 sharks to invest in you?
Firstly, my disclaimer, okay? Shark Tank is not scripted. Before you guys have that thought, because I know a lot of people would be thinking, yaar, ye to scripted hai, ye to dialogues diye gaye hai, falana. Absolutely not. In fact, we were in the season 1, right? At least season 2 and season 3 guys know who the sharks are. In my case, I mean, we were there for 3 days. 1 day was quarantine because it was the COVID time during then. And then 2 days we had rehearsals, and the 3rd day we had the shoot. So we didn't even know who the sharks were. Somebody said, Anupam Mittal, and then I had to Google who is Anupam Mittal. I did not know, honestly. Until we got onto the set, we did not know who the sharks were. So the entire experience of being on Shark Tank was extraordinarily good, because it was very nervousing, because we were extremely nervous. Why? Because 2 days of our shoot, when the other startups went for pitching, none of them, like 8 startups went inside a day earlier, none of them got funded. Then on our day, 6 startups went to the pitch, none of them got funding, and we were like so nervous कि यार इतने बड़े startups है, कोई solar में है, कोई tech में है, कोई इसमें, हम तो साला popsicle बेच रहे, कौन ले देगा investment? That was the kind of attitude we had, and we were nervous that we probably won't get any funding. So we went on to the set, and Anuja and I clearly decided, yaar, we'll just give it a best shot, and अगर TV पे आ जाते हैं तो imagine startup को इससे ज़्यादा क्या चाहिए? That 15 minutes on Sony prime time is worth 8 crore rupees, nothing more or nothing less. So how many of us can actually spend 8 crores? None of us, right? Probably as a startup. So we thought कि funding मिले ना मिले भैया TV पे आना चाहिए. That was the clear agenda. And when we went inside, our pitch was perfect. We were trying to hold on to our Hyderabadi Hindi. वरना उनको नक्को इनको बोले तो it would have sounded very funny on television again. So we did our pitch and we immediately saw that there was some excitement, and this is one thing which I always do. I bribe people with popsicles. So if you see, immediately after the pitch I said, Sharks, क्या आप हमारे ice popsicle try करना चाहेंगे? And I we passed on the ice popsicles to everyone. Skippy and Ashneer started to enjoy, Namita enjoyed, and blah blah. And from every corner, from the Sharks, we started to hear good things about the ice pops. Oh, I love it. And that gave us a confidence. I'm like, oh my God, thank God nobody shouted at us, say कि ये क्या कचरा बना दिया and all that. And after that, the important thing which is an entrepreneur we need to understand, not just on Shark Tank, but even for a venture capitalist pitch, or if you're pitching to investors will look for a question, one question to corner you. They might talk about your GMV, they might talk about your acquisition cost, they might talk about your way to profitability, any question. Or they might even talk about your personal failure in the past, and they'll corner you. If you get cornered, that is where they'll keep banging you onto, and that will go downside for you in the entire pitch. You got to be prepared for your pitch thoroughly. If you, of course, our pitch on Shark Tank was given only 15 minutes to be aired, but we were there inside 45 minutes. There were startups which were there inside for 1.5 hours also. So there's a lot of grilling inside, and that would happen with any pitching. So you need to know your numbers in and out. You need to know your math. You need to know your business process perfectly. And I think we knew that perfectly, and that is why right from Ashneer to all the way to Aman and everybody loved it. And I thought that everybody is looking excited to invest, and I am a startup who is selling popsicles here. I need to do something extraordinary here. And I suddenly got an idea that why don't I become the first startup to have all the 5 sharks investing. And if you see my video, you'll see there that I am suggesting to Aman, आप सभी क्यों नहीं आ जाते? And Aman was like, yeah, that's a good idea. And that is how I got everybody on board, and it created the maximum buzz a startup could get across India.
That's an extremely smart way to do that. 5 sharks, 1 go, full marketing.
Absolutely. Free of cost.
Free of cost. And I have this doubt specifically. They give, 1 crore for 1% equity and something like that. And then do they actually give you a lot of time to go out, sit down, discuss, call up your people, do the math and then come back? Or
I hope you're not recording this. Just kidding. So look, it's basically that it's a win-win situation for both of the investors and the investee. When you are working hard in growing your brand, obviously the sharks would also want to associate with you, because they would also feel pride and pride that I have mentored this brand and they are growing XYZ. At the same time, we are happy that they are connecting with us, and we feel privileged about it as well. But sharks are very straightforward and clear that they will give time and efforts to those young startups who have just probably passed out of college, who needs a little more of hand-holding. And like I said, Anuja and I have come with 30 years of experience ourselves. So in a very casual, candid way, Anupam had told me, Ravi, हमने Skippy के बारे में सोचना छोड़ दिया है, because I think you guys are doing what doing good enough, and you know what you're doing. So rather we will spend our time with those guys who are needed more. But again, everybody is in touch with me. In fact, last week itself, I had a call with a few of the sharks. They keep checking with us whether we need any help or not. If not them directly, their team will get in touch with us. So it's a great exercise for us in terms of mentoring as well. There are a lot of times when you hit a roadblock, you're hitting a wall and you do not know whether I should do this or I should do that. And that is why probably I would reach out to any one of the sharks. I remember going down to Piyush's house, Ashneer's house, Anupam's office. I've been to Vinita's, Namita's office, everybody's places, right? Aman's office. Everybody has a different persona, different way of approaching a startup issue. And they give their strategic thoughts to us. And obviously as an entrepreneur, it is us who has to decide what idea to pick, or probably scrap up all of them and do what you want to do. But they've been pretty helpful, I would say.
Oh, so you went down to Ashneer's house.
Absolutely.
Is there that 5 crore big gold table that everybody said conspired about?
I think that's a good PR that happened around it, but I don't think that's the case.
Okay. So, you had 5 sharks investing in you. So did you face any pressure? Because, there are 5 huge sharks investing in you. And, did you face any pressure? And also, was there any one piece of advice that any shark gave you that, that stood out for you?
Not really that I was any kind of a pressure. I'll be very honest, Sharks has been very kind to let us do our business the way we want to do it. Of course, they have complete right and obligation towards us to give us a good advice. Whether the advice fits into our business strategy or not, that is something that I need to decide. But they have been very, very supportive to us. And one of the good advices that Piyush has also had given me during one of my visits to him, this is something that even you guys should understand, that there are going to be competitions everywhere, okay? Probably tomorrow Skippy will not be the only brand making ice popsicles. There are going to be 4 or 5 of them. There is a Google Pay, so there is a Phone Pay, then there is a Bharat Pay, then there is everything extra pays, right? There is not one single brand which is ruling India. So the only differentiator, and this is what Piyush told me, the differentiator between you and the other brand is going to be your team. The team which you are working on, how you receive a customer, how you deploy your marketing stunt, how you talk to your channel partners and how you promote yourself, everything depends on a team. So focus on building a team, and obviously the success will become much more easier, because the other startups who get into the similar space may not have a good team. They may not reciprocate the same way that your team is doing. Every inch, if you see about Skippy, the way my marketing team has done branding, whether it is the box, it is the bike, EV bike that we have launched, or even the presentation across events, we focus a lot about how the brand is presented and positioned. So that is the outcome of a team. So I have always tried to be a very team-centric person, trying to give all the credits to my team, and I think that is a very important thing, statement, that the team will differentiate you from your competitors.
This is something that all of us should remember, guys, because as we grow up, we make startups, and then a team is extremely important. Have like 5 to 6 very close people with you. So, sir, given your involvement with startup investments, and I'm sure you have invested in a few companies, so what do you look for in the founder while you're investing? So what key qualities define, the founder?
I think first of all, I like to find a founder who's very grounded. There are a lot of founders who will say, I can do this also, I can do that also, I can do the entire world, I can do blah, blah, blah. No investor would want to have an unrealistic founder. Founders need to be very grounded and be very straightforward in the saying that what he or she can do, what he or she cannot do. It's always good to be very transparent on that fact. Secondly, there are a lot of startups who start at a particular service or a product, but then they, in the initial days itself, try to do too many things there. They will add this feature, they will add that product, they will add this and that. I don't think that is a good approach. First thing, get your basics right. Grow your building, your platform or your business to X level. And then once you start making good revenue, you become a little sustainable, then you try to add more features onto it. So I try to talk to a lot of founders to tell them and guide them that, don't jump into too many things on day one. I mean, when I launched Ice Popsicles, I did not launch the corn sticks and the cream roll and blah, blah, blah all together. First, we took at least 2 years of time to get stabilized with the Ice Popsicle business. Now we have started to add other products, right? So that is the right way to go. So I look at founders who are pretty grounded. Second, people who are not trying to do too many things, because too many things will spoil the entire broth itself. I would rather want you guys to focus on few good things or 1 or 2 things only, build a business and then add on top of that. And a founder who has a little bit of either education background or an experience in the same domain. Like I said, tomorrow if I go and start a fintech company, no investor will fund me, because they know I know zero about fintech, right? But if I again start up a second venture in F&B space, I'm sure everybody will come and invest into me. So that domain expertise or education background. If you're an engineer and if you want to start a tech platform, I'm sure a lot of investors would be interested to fund you guys. But like I said, if you're completely off the domain, it might be hard for me to believe that you can actually survive in that space. So these 3 trends is basically what I see. And whether you're making profit immediately doesn't matter. I understand that sometimes startups take a longer time to make profit. happened. But at least you should have a clear clarity that paisa aana kahan se, right? If you tell me, nahi sir, aap paise do do, paise nahi aane wale, nobody gives you money then. That's it.
So, one last question before I end.
Yeah.
So, if you were given a time machine and you were asked to go back to your 21-year-old self, what advice will you give to your own 21-year-old self?
Wow. I hope one of you guys are building that time machine. Look, I've made a lot of mistakes in my past. I wish as a young guy I wouldn't have made that mistakes. I don't know. Like I was telling you, in my father's business, I had the audacity to think that I was building or growing his business, but rather it was his business who was supporting my growth. After that, what happened, and I just want to cover this as a part of my failure story, because every entrepreneur has a failure story. After I came out of my father's business, I started a tech business. So this is a very good example because of what all I have said in the last few minutes. I have no background in technology, okay. I started a platform called Dial Me Guru, which was on a very similar base of Just Dial, which it is today. People used to call us up or go to our website, get the information, and my merchants would give me commissions on that. So I started that portal, again, of course, with the audacity to think that I know everything, and built on this and scaled up like mad. Matlab, I would say that in the start, 0 day to 100th day, you went from 0 employees to 300 employees straight away. And bang, 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 it went on. And unfortunately, the fundamentals were not right, and my business came crashing down. 1.3 crores gone in thin air. All the debt, all my father's money that I had taken up came onto my neck. And it turned out to be such a painful journey for me that my pride, my ego, my attitude, everything went down the drain. And I feel regretted today that I should have been a little more stable, matured enough to understand how to run a business. So I think if I had a chance to go back, I would correct those mistakes, learn a little more of myself before actually jumping down and expanding businesses too fast. And after that, that is why I took a break, went down to Australia for 7 years, worked for good employees there, learned a lot of skills, came back and then started to deploy it in Skippy today. So there are a lot of these mistakes which I regret all the time, but everybody should understand every entrepreneur is most likely to make mistakes. I'm not saying everybody will and must make mistakes, but most likely you guys are going to make mistakes. It is important that, and when you make these mistakes, Reddy garu, Abbai, Chudu, yemaitundi, what is he doing? Sorry about my Telugu. But Gupta ji ka ladka dekho kya kar raha hai, Atan ki chudandi. All that things will come in, even your building's watchman will also give you a good lesson of how to do business. That is how it is. So failures will come in our life. We need to continue just passing, understand that it's a pass of life, and then build ourselves to wait until we are actually successful. Yeah.
Well, that was an exciting session. A huge round of applause, guys.
Thank you.
So now we are moving on to the Q&A session. So if you guys have any questions, you can get up and ask. And also remember, this is your chance to get out of the comfort zone. We are sitting here with Mr. Ravi Kabra, so you better get up and ask questions so that, that is how you get out of your comfort zone and, learn something. Any questions?
Yeah, front row, I guess. Guys, ask me any questions. I'm going to give you a very raw and blunt answer, straightforward, no sugarcoating. Okay? Yeah, please, ma'am.
Yeah, Ravi. You were from the family background, you were from the business back end.
Yeah.
What would be your suggestion for the students who have the pleasure of going for startups and other things, but they don't have a penny in their hand? They don't know what to do and how to do. They just have an idea. As a part of our Vardhaman batch, we just have that provision that we have a CIE cell and other things. But if at all it is a raw case, where then they don't have any family background with a business kind of thing, and they don't have the strategies how to take up and other things, but they have a very good idea which is going to work. They have that confidence. Then how to take up that?
Yeah, ma'am. Thanks a lot for that question. Firstly, I want to reiterate one point very clearly, that just being from a family background of business does not give any kind of a special feature, power or anything. And I'm not even discouraging anybody who is not coming from a family business background to get into entrepreneurship. It's just that sometimes that adds a little more of knowledge in terms of business. and that's about it. To answer ma'am's question here, I think, guys, when you have a business plan in hand, there are two things that we need to do. Firstly, find a mentor who is actually in the industry. It could actually be a business person who's actually doing the tech business or F&B business or construction business or whatever. You need to find a mentor who could be having 10, 12 years of experience, 20, 25 years of experience. I think anything beyond that is too senior for a startup. So these kind of mentors will give you a good hand in shaping your business and understanding the fundamentals of where you could be going right and going wrong. Do not jump into business until you get some kind of a mentor there. It is better because you will not do silly mistakes and lose your money there. Secondly, I mean, if you have actually decided who the mentor is, then probably try and have faith in him or her and learn what he or she is delivering to you. The second thing I would say is that with bare minimum money, which you can borrow from friends and families and fools, this is how we call it, friends, families and fools, you will have to borrow basic amount of money and get a prototype or a basic basic level of business up and running, where you can show to the world that, okay, I'm making 20,000 rupees a month, I'm making 50 or 1 lakh rupees a month, and work on that continuously until you realize that, okay, this is now perfectly correct. Because at this point, when you are certain that you are making basic profits, now you can go to a bigger investor and ask. And this investor doesn't have to be institutional investor. It could be an HNI. It could be really your Guptagar Abbai. It could be anybody who has little bit of net worth, who can trust you and give you, say, 5 lakhs or 50 lakh rupees, and then go to the next stage. Businesses are built in stages. It is not built across like a moonshot, right? So you will have to first get a mentor, get the fundamental business shape and right, then probably ask money from friends, families and fools. Then go to a little bit of HNI guy or girl who can have trust in you and give you 10, 20 or 50 lakhs of check. Build on top of that. Then go to an angel investor who can give you 2 crores to 5 crores of check. And then go into a VC, then go into a PE. So these are stages of business that we'll have to go to. And many times, unfortunately, the friends, families and fools money that you have taken will actually get burnt out. You will realize that you have made a fool of yourself or made a fool of them. If you got your fundamentals and business right, then you will be able to repay back your family and friends also. So this is how I would say, in very gradual steps, people need to see. There is a term called proof of concept, right? POCs. We need to see how businesses are, consumers are accepting your product or not. I'll give you an example of mine, and Anuja's just a little extended on your topic. Anuja and I, when we returned back from Australia, an NRI couple, you know what we did? When we thought with the idea of ice popsicles, you know, every uncle and auntie came up to and says, "Kya tu ye pani ka flavored water bechenga kya ab?" You know, everybody has a different version. So what we did, in a simple white plastic pouches, without name, without brand name, without FSSI number, we got our ice popsicle ready, put it in a thermocol box with lot of ice. Me andar ki IMAX telsa, Prasad's IMAX. We stood in front of Prasad's IMAX and started to give free ice popsicle to people who were coming out of after watching theatre. And 40 to 50 ice popsicle went away like this. But I told Anuja then that, Anu, this is India, free mein to sab jata hai yahan pe. Let us see whether people will pay money or not. 20 rupees I started to charge them. In the next 20 minutes, 60 to 70 popsicles got sold out. And that is how I said, this is a proof of concept. A startup needs to hustle. हमें करना यही है. We have to be the watchman, we have to be the packer, we have to be the loader, we have to be the CEO. Everything we have to be. And that is a gradual growth. Even we cannot afford marketing, consultants. We cannot afford people to do great designs for us. We cannot do market research with Nielsen's or anybody else. So we are the market research ourselves. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Yep. Next question.
Hello, sir. This is Sufyan. So a few minutes ago, you mentioned that only 97 in 100 out of 100%, 97% will not get any investment. And so, what's your opinion or suggestion for me to get in that top 3% to get investment?
So, I think if you want to be in the top 3%, then you have to get everything right. You have to be a dynamic entrepreneur. You need to know your business in and out. You need to be an expert in your domain. And you need to give a clear projections of growth into your investors, that this is a 5,000 crore market, out of which you can achieve 500 crores or maybe 1,000 crores of business. How are you going to give them an exit? How much multiples of money they are going to be making out of you? All these parameters have to fit in very well. Only then they might be interested in putting money into you. One of the very important things, guys, everybody should understand, most of the VCs do not invest in business, they invest in entrepreneurs. Because when you start off at A, you think that this is a business model and this is the business you want to get into. But as time goes on, your business will suddenly move into a different style, different domain, different product altogether. So they know that only a good entrepreneur can transit from from they are today to where they are after 5 years. So they invest into an entrepreneur, his skills, his mindset. So I think that is where you should focus on yourself. And again, there is no reason why everybody should go for a venture capitalist funding or anything. Guys, family businesses are one of the best. Manchiga double teeskovali, jeblo pettukovani, Mercedes nadpiyali. That is one of the best businesses to get into. No reason why we need to have investors.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Any other questions? Can we pass on the mic to the back?
I'm Stanley, sir.
Few in the back as well. Yeah, please.
I'm Stanley.
After
My
this-
question is, what are the fundamental concepts that we have to learn before starting a business?
I think, like I said, the fundamental concept is you should be a domain expert. If you are a guy who understands textile perfectly because you've been working in that domain, I think that is one of the industries you should get into. You need to be very thorough in terms of identifying where is the gap in the industry, what is the problem, and how are you going to give a solution to that. Unless until you know this, you jumping into a domain will actually backfire you. And the second important point is you have to be very excited and passionate about whatever you're doing. Because this journey is so terribly bad, so lonely and so stressful that if you're not enjoying what you're doing every day, you will give up eventually. And that will happen. See, I gave up while I was doing Dial Me Guru because it was technology based. I didn't know any ABCD about it. But F&B, I know everything. So I have to be passionate about what I'm doing, because when the stone is hit on me and I'm going through a bad phase, my passion will drive me. कि भाई थोड़ा और कर ले, निकल जाएंगे इसमें से. So that is important. Thank you. Yes.
Afternoon, sir. I'm Laksh.
Hi, Laksh.
First thing, I love your product. Amazing.
Thank you.
So one thing I'd ask is about the sharks. I'm sure the sharks must have been really nice, but who do you think got you an edge over the others? Who helped you the most? And the other thing is, does Skippy plan anytime to go public? Anytime soon?
Okay, first part of the question, who's my favorite shark? Something similar to that. I always say, जिसने भी invest किया वो सब मेरे favorite है. ठीक है.
ऐसे दो favorite बन जाओ.
Everybody has a different perception, the way they see Skippy, the way they talk, and the way they pursue their thought processes. Ashnir is a man of numbers. Piyush is a man of vision. Anupam is a man of all industries. He understands business in and out. Namita understands how to scale up businesses because she comes from a strong business family. So Vinita has got a different perception because she herself is a startup today. So everyone has a very different view about a problem and a solution towards it. I think I cannot categorically say who's my favorite or not. Whether Skippy will become an IP or not, whether we'll go public or not, I think it's too early to talk about that now. We are just growing as a startup. 4 to 5 years down the line, like I said, if you are achieving the 1,000 crore number, then why not? But at the moment, I think it's a dream too far for now. Thanks.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Dhiren. I wanted to ask, what does a person do when he fails in his business? Like, failure is something which almost happens to everyone. It's not like you succeed in your first business. So, where do you go from there? How do you get back into the race?
See, I think one of the most important points that people tend to avoid is face the failures. I face it very strongly. Honestly, like I told you, आपको building का watchman भी ज्ञान देगा. I had to go and face everybody in my family, my friend circle that I have messed up, because no matter whether you try to avoid it, it will keep daunting onto you and it will hurt your ego, your pride and your self-esteem so badly that you will find it very difficult to come out of it, because you're trying to cover up your mistakes by adding more lies to your statements. नहीं, ऐसा नहीं, मैं तो अच्छा कर रहा था, फलाना. I don't know what. I strongly believe that when you get into a failure, it is very good that you come out and say, I did the failure, I was bad, but I think going forward I'll rectify myself in the next venture. That will give you confidence, and also it will cut down all the gossip which is going on in the circle of yours, which demotivates you. I have seen a lot of entrepreneurs who will start avoiding social circles, they'll avoid going to events and parties because people are talking about them. I would say rather go walk into that circle and say, bhai, నేను చేసేసిన ఏం పీక్తో ఇప్పుడు, talk like that. అయింది ఖతం. What am I supposed to do after that? This is how your attitude should be as an entrepreneur. Nobody is super successful. There are very handful of people जिसने पहला business शुरू किया, startup शुरू किया, and they have made millions of dollars. Most of the people, look at the sharks, they all talk about their failures, right? Everybody has got a failure behind them. So don't worry about it too much. Let it come and go. Don't try to avoid it. Cool.
1 second. After this, can you pass the mic to the person behind? He's
In
been
the last
asking.
row.
Yeah.
Backbenchers are always difficult to reach out to. Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. Before stepping into this particular Skippy, if you got an offer letter from top tech giants like Google or Microsoft, what would be your choice? Will you, with offer letter of 50 to 60 LPA, what would be your choice? Will you opt for that particular job or continue for this particular startup?
You were saying after I finished Skippy or
No,
before?
Before, sir. Before.
Like I said, I have never been a person who would want to enjoy jobs, and unfortunately, my industry, I'm not from a tech background. Google offices, I know, boss, they've got Cadbury's and lunch and dinner, everything over there. My industry, from where I come, unfortunately, we're not pampered that way. So there are not any F&B players in the industry who would pamper us that way. So I would probably, me as a person, I cannot do a job over here. The reason I chose to do a job abroad in Australia is they have a very good work-life balance. So it made me very comfortable in terms of working in Australia and learning from those brands and those companies, which probably I couldn't do back then in India. I know that things in India have changed drastically now. So maybe now if somebody had offered me some great position, I might really think about it seriously, maybe after Skippy. But prior to Skippy, no, I was very clear that I wanted to get my entrepreneurship started. And even after coming back from Australia, I never thought that I will go and work for Google or Microsoft or somebody else. I was very clear that I will start my own stuff, and this is what I did.
So for example, taking myself as example, if I have an idea about a startup and I got an offer letter from tech giants, what would be your opinion?
You cannot do two things. This is what happens, most of the guys will be like, na dagar manchi offer letter kuda undi, startup kuda cheyali, what should I do? If you're not sure, see, there is no age to do a startup. We know the story of KFC, right? He started at 60s.
Yes.
There is no age for a startup. You are not sure about it, don't pressure yourself to become a startup today. Go and do a job. Learn something. 4 or 5 years down the line, once you become confident, please do a startup. I am 42 today. I've started at 40, Skippy, right? I'm not old enough. I'm not going to die tomorrow. I mean, assuming so. But you can start anytime. So don't be under that pressure. Do a job if you're not sure, and then come back into startup ecosystem once you feel confident.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks. There are a few hands in the back as well, last rows. Yes.
Sir, my name is Shiva. What is your net worth of your company, sir?
I'll have to look up at my balance sheet. I'll give you my auditor's number. Please reach out. Smart move by there, huh?
Hi, sir.
Yeah.
Hi, sir. सर जैसे आपके स्किपी ब्रांड आरसीबी को स्पॉन्सर करे ना.
Really?
ये मतलब लोगो देखा था सर.
मुझे पता नहीं था.
नहीं, जर्सी पे देखा था.
नहीं, it was not us. We have not reached there yet.
आईपीएल कौन सा भी टीम को स्पॉन्सर नहीं करे.
नहीं किए सर. थोड़ा फंड कर दो, कर देंगे. Not yet. I think you've got it wrong. We have not sponsored.
फंड कर दे.
All right, sure. Yeah, maybe another 2 questions and
2 more questions and we'll end it.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah.
There might be a particular point where you have got the idea of this startup, right? Could you share the experience with us?
like I said, as an entrepreneur, if you're looking to get into a startup, you'll keep asking people for ideas. You'll discuss ideas with your booze mates, your classmates, or whoever. And over a few discussions, you will realize that the idea is good.